I wrote the book in 1966, and the film was made in 73. And here we are 30 years later, and I think it's every bit as powerful, if not more so, than it was when I first did it.
I'm gonna name my last album "The Spook that Sat by the Door." You know what I mean? When I finished my situation with our partnership at Atlantic, and for anybody that ain't seen that book, seen that movie or read the book, it's about a gang member from Chicago who presented himself in a way he never caught no cases. He had a clean cut look, and he infiltrated the CIA.
Yep.
And he became educated and basically he used their agenda, which was to have a token nigga in the CIA for political reasons. You know, we gonna speak blunt, fuck it. He used it against him. And I think that in terms of hip hop, you think of the message that they embrace, I feel parallel with, like, you know what I mean, the power structure. I don't mean the culture of hip hop, but the power structure of music. They got prescribed personas they expect from us. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the way he used their intention against him was one of my underlying strategies.
I wouldn't give a damn if nobody white ever read my book. If they do, I want them to pay for it and get my royalties. And if they get something out of it, I say, fine. But my audience is not white. I don't write for black bourgeois intellectuals. I write for the people on the block where I live.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
The Spook Who Sat by the Door. The controversial best-selling novel now becomes a shocking screen reality. The story of the first black agent in the CIA.
Whoever they select will be the best-known spy since 007.
Their first mistake was letting him in.
And let me congratulate you on being the first Negro officer in the Central Intelligence Agency.
Their worst mistake was letting him out.
You really want to mess with Whitey? I can show you how.
For 5 years, he was their token Negro.
Freeman, you people must serve.
For 5 years, he kept his cool.
Man, you just don't belong. I think you'd be happier with a mop in your hands. Like your mama.
And in return, they taught him how to spy, how to fight, how to kill. For 5 years, he was the spook who sat by the door. And then he turned gangs of ghetto kids into a highly trained guerrilla army.
We live off the land. We match technology with spontaneity and improvisation. Men against machines, brains against computers. Now, if you don't think it can work, you check out Algeria, Kenya, Korea, and Vietnam. Can you dig it?
He turned a summer riot into a revolution.
This is not about hate white folks. It's about loving freedom enough to die or kill for it if necessary.
He turned the American dream into a nightmare. Yesterday, a novel. Today, a movie. The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
And the mayor's office is now air-conditioned, courtesy of the Black Freedom Fighters of Chicago.
I want people to think. And out of thought, concerned action. You don't act first and then think. You think first and then act. That's why we were given brains. That's why we don't act instinctively. And when we do, we're wrong. Whichever way they go, I want them to think about what I've had to say. I'm not trying to recruit anybody. I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I want to shake up the mind. I want people to look at that movie and go out of there thinking. And I think I've accomplished that purpose.
All right, let's see if we got this right. Reggie, can you hear me? Let me see. Let me get my brother Reggie in here real quick. See if I can get my brother Reggie in real quick. We're about to read The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. Appreciate everybody that came in to read it. Salute to everybody that's gonna be listening to this on the replay. Y'all already know how we do. We're gonna go ahead and read. You know what I'm saying? And if y'all got the book, feel free to jump on in. If not, sit back and read along. But let me get my brother Reggie in real quick so we can start this thing.
Touch. You there, Tank? All right, give us one moment, folks. Give us one moment. And we'll get ready to get right up into this thing. Test. Tank, you still there?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir. Salute to everybody that's joining us in the chat. Everybody that's listening on the replay. You already know how me and my brother Reggie Owens do. Bringing you a good book. This time we're going to read the book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. The critically acclaimed book, critically acclaimed movie, was infamous, got him in some trouble. But it's a culture classic movie for us. A lot of our people know about this book. A lot of our people have read this book and or have watched this movie over the years. So, you know, we're going to introduce it in the way that we know how to introduce it, which is through book form, because we want to make it cool to read. We want to encourage reading, and we want to make it so that it's cool to read for the next generation. They see us reading, and you know what I mean? We want them to be able to look at their OGs or the older people, men especially, in they community, and look at it as something that's not taboo to do, which is pick up a book and get to reading, exercise your brain. You got anything you want to say, Reggie, before we start?
Oh no, you hit it all right there, bro. We just trying to inspire, man. Normalize this, make this cool. Not be afraid to showcase this.
That's right. Let me see. Y'all got to bear with me because it's my first time going live on this type of level. So we're going to get this here started. And then we're going to start with chapter 1. We're going to go every 3 pages. If that's cool with you, Reg. And try to get us we're going to get probably about 2 chapters in today, because these are not long chapters of this book. So let's see how it goes. If we got time enough, we'll try to get a 3rd chapter in, but let's see how this goes. All right, one more radio check. Y'all hear me? Hear me loud and clear? All right, for sure. We're going to start with, I'm going to do the first 3 pages. All right, Reg? All right. The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. Today, the computers would tell Senator Gilbert Hennington about his impending campaign for re-election. The senator knew from experience that the computers did not lie. He sat separated from his assembled staff by his massive, uncluttered desk, the Washington Monument framed by the window in his rear. They sat alert, competent, loyal, and intelligent. with charts, graphs, clipboards, and reports at the ready. The senator swept the group with a steely glaze, gave Belinda, his wife and chief aide, a bright smile of confidence and said, "All right, team, let's have a rundown. And don't try to sweeten the poison. We all know this will be the closest one yet. What I want to know is how close. Tom, kick it off." The campaign war chest is in excellent shape, Chief. No major defectors. Good. I'll look over your detailed breakdown later, Dick. I spent a week on Madison Avenue with both the PR boys and our ad agency. They both have good presentations ready for your approval, Senator. I think you'll be pleased. How do we shape up on TV, Dick? All our ducks in line? Excellent, Senator. You'll be on a network television on a minimum of 3 times between now and Election Day. Just about perfect. No danger of overexposure. Have you licked the makeup thing yet, Dick? Asked Belinda Hennington. A small detail, but it probably cost one man the presidency. We don't want that to happen to us. No sweat, Mrs. Hennington. Max Factor came out with a complete new line right after that fiasco. I think we'll be using grain temples in keeping with our maturity image. As we all know, the youth bit is out nowadays. Fortunately, with the senator, we can play it either way. Good show, Dick, said the senator. Harry, I've run the result of our polls through the computers, both the IBM 436 and the Remington Rand 1401. Lewis Harris gave us a random pattern sampling with peer group anchorage. Gallup a saturation, vertical syndrome, personality study, and NORC an ethnic and racial cross-section symbiology. The results check out on both computers, although I'm programming a third as a safety valve checkout. The computers have you winning the election, Senator, but by less than 3,000 votes. A small shift, and there goes the ball game. The senator, startled and troubled, glanced nervously towards his wife. She gave him a smile of reassurance. Do the computers indicate a possible breakthrough, he asked, with any of the peer groups? How do we stand with the Jewish vote? You're solid with the Jews, Senator. Where you're in trouble is with the Negroes. The Negroes, exclaimed Senator Hennington. Why? I have the best voting record on civil rights on Capitol Hill. Just last year, I broke the ADA record for correct voting on civil rights with 97.64%. Our polls reveal a sharp decline just after your speech requesting a moratorium on civil rights demonstrations. If we can regain most of the lost Negro percentile, Senator, we're home free. No use crying about a lack of voter loyalty. This calls for a think session. Perhaps we should have our special assistant on minorities and civil rights sit in. Although I'm not sure how helpful he'll prove. Frankly, I'm disappointed by his performance so far. Judy, said the senator into his office intercom. Think session in here. No calls, please. And cancel all morning appointments. And ask Carter Summerfield to join us, will you? The senator turned to his wife as they awaited the arrival of Summerfield. Belinda, I'm beginning to have serious doubts about Summerfield. He hasn't come up with a fresh idea since he joined us. And I don't expect anything other than tired cliches from him today. He's fine in the campaign, Gil. That's where he'll shine. I don't think you ought to rely on him for theory. Perhaps you're right. I guess it's not brains we're looking for in him anyway. No, she smiled. That's his least valuable commodity to us. You got it, Red? Or did you fall out? Hold on, we got technical difficulties. Reggie, you copy? He fell out. Let me see. Try to get Reggie back in here real quick.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I'm having this modem issue again. All right, so here we go. The senator swiveled in his leather-covered chair, half round, and gazed out at the Washington Monument. The question of the Negro vote could be serious. I never thought I'll ever be in trouble with those people. We have to come up with something which will remind them I'm the best friend they have in Washington, and soon. Carter Summerfield had sat in his office all morning, worried and concerned. He sensed the senator was not pleased with his performance and could not understand why. Summerfield had sought desperately to discover what it was the senator wanted to hear in order that he might say it, and was amazed to find that the senator seemed annoyed when his own comments were returned, only slightly paraphrased. In all his career as a professional Negro, Summerfield had never before encountered a white liberal who actually wanted an original opinion from a Negro concerning civil rights. For all they all considered themselves experts on the subject, Summerfield found it impossible to believe Senator Hennington any different from the others. He had spent the morning searching for the source of the senator's displeasure until his head arched. To his head arched. Oh, I'm just jacking that word up. Until his head ached. The handwriting was on the wall, and Summerfield knew his job was at stake. He must discover the source of displeasure and remove it. Perhaps he should wear ready-made clothes. Had the senator somehow seen him driving the Lincoln rather than the Ford he always drove to the office? It was essential never to have a more impressive car than one's boss. He told all his newly integrated Negro friends that, had anyone discovered the encounter with the white girl in Colorado Springs, when he had accompanied the senator on a trip to the Air Force Academy, he had been certain he had acted with the utmost secrecy and discretion. But he had known even then that it was a stupid move which might threaten his entire career. Summerfield took 2 Gillisils and tranquilizers and reached for the phone to inquire discreetly of his fellow integrated Negro friends if there was word on the grapevine of an opening for a man of his experience. The phone rang. It was Senator Hennington's secretary summoning him to the senator's office for a think session. Smiling as always, when in the presence of whites, Summerfield enters the office, his eyes darting from face to face for some signs concerning his present status. But the looks But the looks of the other members of the staff were no longer funereal, and the senator greeting him with a warm smile as he mentioned Summerfield to an empty chair, briefly inquiring about his wife and children. It seems, Carter, said the senator, that we're in serious trouble with the Negro vote. Summerfield frowned in sympathy and concern. We must come up with a fresh, dramatic, and headline capturing act on my part, which will prove to my colored constituents that I'm the best friend they have in Washington. He swept the room again with a steely gaze. Gary Cooper, back to the wall, but undaunted, and we must do it today. Summerfield nervously licked his lips. How about calling a conference of the responsible Negro leaders to discuss your new civil rights bill, Senator? The senator considered for a moment. I think so, Carter. To be perfectly frank, I don't think the bill will pass this sessions. White backlash. How about a fact-finding tour of the African countries, said Dick. No, I did that last year and still haven't kicked the dysenteries. The dysenteries I picked up on safaris and the Tanga Yankee. I'm probably jacking that word up. And the Tanga Yankee. How about a speech attacking apartheid at Cape Town University? Asked Harry. I don't think South Africa will grant me a visa. Gil, said the senator's wife, why don't we accuse the CIA or the Central Intelligence Agency of a discriminatory hiring policy? Segregation in CIA? Yes, they have no Negro officers at all, mostly menial and clerical help. Are you certain, Belinda? This could be what we're looking for. I'm positive, but I'll check it out. We have a man in personnel over there, you know. Couldn't a charge of that nature prove counterproductive, Miss Hennington asked Dick. CIA's almost as untouchable as the FBI. Not since U2 and the Bay of Pigs, and this should prove an irresistible combination for the press. Cloak and dagger, and civil rights. I'm inclined to agree, Belinda, said the senator, who was usually inclined to agree with his attractive wife. What's the best way of springing this thing for maximum impact? Why not at the senator's watchdog committee hearing, said Tom. But the hearings are close, said the senator. It wouldn't be the first time we've used closed hearings for a press league. Gil, I'll brief Mark Townsend over lunch here in the office on the day of the hearing, said Belinda.
Excellent, said Dick. A political columnist of his stature is perfect. Now, how do I play it in the hearings? Indignant, angry, or do I underplay? Dignified, I think, Senator, said Harry. You're shocked and saddened that the agency in closest grips with the forces of godless communism is shackled by the chains of racial prejudice. Right, said Tom. You say that America must utilize the talents of its entire citizenry, regardless of race, color, or creed, in the Cold War. They'll deny it at first, said Belinda. Then probably claim their personal files are classified. But they'll back down when they get enough negative press coverage. They're very image conscious nowadays. Carter Summerfield sat looking interested, but carefully silent, advising the senator how to criticize other whites was definitely not one of his functions. I can program one of the computers to provide statistics showing the increased efficiency of the armed forces since their integration, said Tom. If the CIA does select a Negro, he'll be the best known spy since 007, said Harry. Well, he'll find it a bit difficult after all the publicity he's going to get, said the senator. You mean Gil? Said his wife. The publicity that you're going to get? The senator smiled. General, said Senator Hennington, addressing the director of the CIA, it has come to my attention that there are no Negroes on an officer level in the CIA. Would you care to comment on that? The other committee members looked at Senator Hennington with some shock. They knew he faced a close election in the fall, but this gambit was below the belt. The general, fighting to control his famous temper, replied icily, you know, our course, Senator, that our personal files are highly classified. I'm aware of that, General, but this meeting is closed and we are all cleared for that kind of information. It's not true that we don't have any colored at the agency. Our entire kitchen staff, our maintenance section, and drivers are all colored. My question, General, concerned Negroes on an officer level. Well, we don't have any colored officers. Do you think, General, that a policy of racially selective recruiting, which excludes a full 10% of our population, is a wise one? Yes. While I personally have no race prejudice, I feel Negroes are not yet ready for the highly specialized demands of intelligence work. Really? Said Senator Hennington, smiling a smile of patronizing pity into the face of bigotry. It's a question of sociology rather than prejudice. A gap simply exists between the races, which is a product of social rather than racial factors. There are Negroes who have bridged that gap. If so, I would welcome them in the CIA. I would suggest you make more of an effort to find them, Senator Hennington, said the committee chairman in his rich, aristocratic Southern drawl. We all know that deceit, hypocrisy, duplicity are the everyday tools of our agents in the field. Much to their credit, the childlike nature of the colored mentality is ill-suited to the craft of intelligence and espionage. I'm afraid, Mr. Chairman, replied the senator, once again entering into the charade concerning race he had conducted with his Southern friend for well over a decade. I don't understand what you mean by the colored mentality. There is the question of cover, said the general. An agent must be capable of fading into the background, adopting the guise of the person one cannot remember minutes after meeting him. Negroes in the field would be far too conspicuous. General, I'd rather not carry this conversation any further. I would appreciate a report in a month's time concerning the progress of the establishment of a merit hiring policy at CIA. The luncheon table had been trundled away, and Belinda Hennington and the famous political columnist Mark Townsend sat in the conversation corner of the senator's office, sipping brandy from large sifters. Both the senator and I wanted to give you an exclusive on this, Mark, said Belinda. Thanks, Belinda. Are you sure this checks out? The government is supposed to be at the forefront in merit hiring. Not CIA. We're positive. I have a man at CIA. Mind if I check him out on this one?
Of course not. You can use an undisclosed CIA source in your lead. This could bring civil rights back into the headlines. It's been suffering from overexposure lately. You're right, Mark. The public has tried of these. Oh, the public is tired. Has tried. Oh, dang. Sorry. The public has tired of the same old thing. Fire hoses, cattle prods, dogs on the one hand, and singing, marching, and praying on the other. Civil rights should use a good public relations man. When will the senator make an official statement? I should guess after the wire service and television pick up your beat. About 3 days, I should think. Sounds about right. Where will you conduct the press conference? Right here. The Washington Monument makes a good backdrop for the television cameras, almost a Hennington trademark. Townsend had left, and Belinda was sipping a well earned scotch on the rocks when the senator returned. She mixed her husband a drink as he sank into the leather chair behind his big desk. How did it go today, dear? She asked. Couldn't have gone better, honey. I'm certain this is it. Yes, dear. By this time next week, we'll have the Negro vote wrapped up again. She handed the senator his drink and rested one sleek hip on the polished mahogany of the desk. Never take never take the voters for granted. Even Negroes react eventually, you know. I have thought the CIA would have been more alert on a thing like this. If they had even one Negro officer, my charges would have fallen as flat as your sister's shuffles. If it hadn't been CIA, it would have been someone else. We're not likely to run out of institutions to accuse of segregation in our lifetime, darling. They smiled at one another affectionately. That November, the senator won his reelection comfortably. The Negro vote accounting for more than his margin of victory. Freeman, chapter 2. Freeman watched the class reunion from a corner of the common room of the CIA's training barracks. It was a black middle class reunion. They were well, black bourgeoisies to a man, black Neapolitanisms personified. In addition to those who had recruited themselves upon receiving notice that the CIA was now interested in at least token integration, 5 were relatives or in-laws of civil rights leaders, 4 others of Negro politicians. Only Freeman was not middle class, and the others knew it. Even he had not dressed as he did, not used to speech patterns and mannerisms of the Chicago ghetto slums. They would have known. His presence made them uneasy and insecure. They were members of the black elite and a product of the ghetto. And a product of the ghetto streets did not belong among them. They carefully ignored Freeman, and it was as he wished. He had no more love for the black middle class than they had for him. He watched them establishing a pecking order as he sat sipping a Scotch highball. It was their first day in the training camp after months of exhaustive screening, testing, security checks. Of the hundreds considered, only the 23 present in the room had survived and been selected for the preliminary training, and constantly reminded of it since they had reported. They pranced, posed, and preened in mutual and self-admirations. To be a Negro firster was considered a big thing, but Freeman didn't think so.
Man, you know how much this 12-year-old scotch cost me in the commissary? 3 bills and a little change. Shiv had Regal. As long as I can put my mouth around this kind of whiskey at that price, I'm in love with being a spy. You know they call CIA agents spooks. First time we'll ever get paid for that title. Man, the fringe benefits, they just don't stop coming in. Nothing to say of the base pay and stuff we get. We got it made. Say, baby, didn't we meet at the Penn Relays a couple of years ago in that motel on the edge of Philly? You remember that chick you was with, Lorleen? Well, she's teaching school in Camden now, and I get a little bit of that from time to time. Nah, man, don't freeze on me. I'm married. And you know, Lorleen didn't give a damn. I'll tell her I saw you when we get out of here. Where do you go to school, man? Fisk. I went to Morris Brown. You frat? Q. You got a couple brothers here? Those cats over there. What you major in? What your father do? Your mother working too? Where your wife go to school? What sorority? What kind of work you do before you made this scene? How much bread you make? Where's your home? What kind of car you got? How much you pay for that suit? You got your own pad? Or you live in an apartment? Co-op apartment? Tell me. That's the new thing nowadays. Clue me in. You got a color TV? Component stereo or console? Drop those names. Doctors I have known, lawyers, judges, businessmen, dentists, politicians, and great Negro leaders I have known. Drop those name brands. Or drop those brand names. GE, Magnavox, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Bennett, Brooks Brothers, Florsheim, Johnny Walker, Chivas Regal, Jack Daniels. Imported beer? DuPont Carpenton, wall-to-wall drags with split-level minds, remote-controlled color TV souls, and credit card hearts. Play. Who do you know, and who do you have screwed? Blow your bourgeois blues, you nigga. Nigga sold for a mess of materialistic pottage. You can't ever catch Charlie, but you can ape him and keep the gap widening between you and those other niggas. You have a ceiling on you, and your ambition, but the others are in the basement, and you will help Mr. Charlie keep them there. If they get out and move up to your level, then what will you have? They eyed Freeman uneasily. He was an alien in this crowd. Somehow he had escaped the basement. He had moved up to their level, and he was a threat. He must be put in his place. He would not last. Breeding told, but he should know that he was among his betters. The tall, good-looking one with the curly black hair and light skin approach, Freeman. He was from Howard and wore his clothes Howard style. The cuffless pants stopping at his ankles. His tie was very skinny and the knot almost unnoticeable. His shoulder pattern non-existent. He had known these arrogant Chicago niggas like Freeman before, thinking they owned Howard's campus, moving in with their down-home ways, their Mississippi mannerisms, loud laughter, no manners, elbowing their way into fraternities, trying to steal the women, making more noise than anyone else at the football games and rallies. One of those Diddy Bob niggas from Chicago had almost stolen his present wife. Where you from, man? You don't seem to talk much. No, I don't. Don't what? I don't talk much. I'm from Chicago. Chicago? Where you from before that? Way back. Georgia. Snatchback, Mississippi. You look like you just got off the train, man. Where's the paper bag with your sack of fried chicken? Freeman looked at him and sipped his drink. No, seriously, man. No, seriously, my man. Where you from? A lot of boys here from the South. How come you got to pretend? I bet you don't even know where State Street and the Loop is. How you sneak into this group? This is supposed to be the cream, man. You sure you don't clean up around here? Freeman stood up slowly, still holding his drink. The tall one was standing very close to his armchair and had to step back when Freeman rose. Baby, I'll kick your ass. Go away and leave me the hell alone. The tall one opened his mouth to speak. A fraternity brother settled up, took his arm, and led him away. Freeman freshened his drink and sat down in front of the television set. After a lull, the black middle-class reunion resumed. He had not made a mistake, he thought. Although all niggas looked alike to whites, and he had thought it to his advantage to set himself apart from this group in a way that would make the whites overlook him until too late.
They would automatically assume that the others who looked and acted so much like their black representatives and spokesmen who appeared on the television panels, spoke in the halls of Congress, made the covers of Time and Life, and ran the Negro newspapers and magazines, who formed the only links with the white world, would threaten to survive this test. Both the whites and these sedity niggers, Freeman thought, would ignore him until too late. And he thought Whitey will be more likely to ignore a nigger who approaches the stereotypes than these others who think imitation, who think imitation the sincerest form of flattery. He smiled when he thought about walking into his friend's dental office that day. Hey, Freebie, what's happening, baby? Ain't seen you in the Boulevard Lounge lately. Where you been hiding? Got something new on the string? No, been working. Look, you know that cap you put on after I got hung up in the Iowa game? I want a new one with an edge of gold around it. Gold? You must be kidding. And where you get that refugee from Robert Hall's suit? That's where I brought it. I'm going out to Washington for a final interview panel, and I want to please the crackers. His friends nodded. He understood. Freeman did not spend much time socializing with the rest of the Negro pioneers, those chosen to be the first to integrate a segregated institution. He felt none of the gratitude, awe, pride, and arrogance of the Negro first, and he did not think after the first few days that many of them would be around very long, and Freeman had come to stay. They had calisthenics in the morning and then 6 hours of classes. Exams were scheduled for each Saturday morning. They were not allowed to leave the area, but there was a different movie screened each night in a plush small theater. There was a small PX, a swimming pool, a bar, and a soda fountain. There was a social area at the end of the building in which they lived that included pool tables, ping pong, a television room with color TV, chess and checker sets. There was a small library containing technical material related to their classes and light fictions, magazines, and periodicals. There was a music room with a stereo console containing an AM and FM receiver with records consisting mostly of show tunes from Broadway hits of the last decade. There were Coke machines. It was like a very plush bachelor officers' quarters. There were basketball courts, badminton courts, a 9-hole golf course, squash courts, a gym, and a 220-yard rubberized track. A touch football field. After the intensive screening, which they had undergone prior to their selection, none of the rest thought that the classes and examinations were anything more than a window dressing. They settled down to enjoy their plush confinements during the training period, after which they will be given offices in the vast building in Langley, Virginia, down by the river. Freeman combined a program of calisthenics, weight training, isometrics, running, and swimming, which never took more than an hour, usually less than half that time. He would watch television and read until dinner, take an hour's nap, and then study until midnight. No one at the training camp, white or colored, thought it strange that freedmen, a product of the Chicago ghettos, where Negroes spend more time, money, and care in the selections of their wardrobe than even in Harlem, should be so badly dressed. Or that, although he had attended two first-rate educational institutions, he should speak with so limited a vocabulary, so pronounced an accent, and such Uncle Tom humor. They put it down to the fact that he had been an athlete who had skated through college on his fame. Freeman did not worry about the whites because he was being exactly what they wished. The Negroes of the class would be ashamed of him, yet flattered by the contrast. But there might be a shrewd, but they might be a shrewd one among them. There was only one. He approached Freeman several times with penetrating questions. The fraternity thing put him off. You a fraternity man, Freeman? He asked once over lunch. Nah, I was once because of the chicks. You had to have that pen, almost as good as a letter in football. But I thought that kind of stuff was silly. I used to be a Kappa. He looked at Freeman coldly. I'm still a Kappa, he said. He finished lunch and never spoke to Freeman again. Midway through the fourth week, 3 of the group were cut. They were called into the front office and informed that their grades were not up to standard, and that same evening they were gone. Panic hit the group, and there were several conferences concerning what should be done. Go ahead. You take.
Try to see.
Yeah, I stopped right at that last word right before we went over.
Oh, I got you. Several long distance phone calls were made. 3 to the politicians, 5 to the civil rights bureaucrats. The group was informed that they were on their own and that after the time, energy, money, and effort that had gone into their integration, they should feel obligated to perform up to the highest standards. Freeman had received the best grades in each of the exams, but no one was concerned with that fact. 2 others left the following weekend, although their grades were among the highest in the group. Freeman guessed correctly that it was for homosexuality and became convinced that in addition to being bugged for sound, the rooms were monitored by closed circuit TV. He was right. Telephones, even the ones in the booth, would coin boxes were bugged as well. The general received a weekly report regarding the progress of the group. It appeared that those intellectually qualified could be cut on physical grounds. They were already lagging at the increasing demands of the morning calisthenics and were not likely to survive the rigors of hand-to-hand combat. The director of the school confidently predicted that no one of these Negroes would survive the 10 weeks of the school, which would then be completely free for a new group of recruits presently going through preliminary screening. It was to the credit of Freeman's unobtrusive demeanor that the school's director did not even think of him, in spite of his excellent grades and physical condition, when making his report to the general. If he had, he might have qualified his report somewhat. The general instructed his school's director to forward complete reports to the full senatorial committee. He intended to head off any possible criticism of Senator Hennington. He could not know that the senator was not in the least concerned with the success or failure of the Negro pioneers to integrate the Central Intelligence Agency. He had won his election, and for another 6 years, he was safe. When this group is finished, I want you to begin screening another. Don't bother to select Negroes who are obviously non-competent. They have already demonstrated their inability to close the cultural gap, and no one is in a position seriously to challenge our instance not to lower standards for anyone. It will cost us a bit to flunk out 6 or 8 a year, but we needn't worry about harassment on this race thing again in the future if we do. It's a sound investment, since the general, it's a sound investment, said the general. He was pleased and again convinced that he was not personally prejudiced. Social and scientific facts were social and scientific facts. He ate a pleasant meal in his club that evening and noted that there were both white and colored present. The whites were members and guests. The Negroes served them. The general did not reflect that this was the proper order of things. He seldom approved of the rising of the sun either. 2 more were cut for poor marksmanship. Freeman had obtained an ROTC commission at college and had served in Korea during the police action. He was familiar with all of the weapons except the foreign ones, and a weapon is a weapon. Only the extremely high cylinder rate of the Schamiser machine pistol bothered him, and that did not last very long. Mr. Freeman, the retired Marine gunnery sergeant said, "This is an automatic weapon and designed to be fired in bursts. Why are you firing it single shot?" "It's to get its rhythm, Sergeant. I couldn't control the length of the burst at first, and I was wasting ammo. But I think I have it now." The sergeant knew that Freeman had been an infantryman, and Marines, in spite of what they claim, have at least a modicum of respect for any fighting man. "Okay, Mr. Freeman, show me what you mean." "Targets 1 through 5 and use 1 clip." "Call the burst, Sergeant." 3, 5, 5. He called the number of the rounds he wanted in rapid succession, as fast as Freeman could fire them. There were rounds left for the final target, and on inspection, they found that one 5-round burst had been 6 instead. That's very good shooting, Mr. Freeman. Were you a machine gunner in Korea? No. I was in a heavy weapons company for a while and got to know MGs fairly well. But I spent most of my time in a line of infantry company. I like automatic weapons, though. I learned it's not marksmanship, but firepower that wins a firefight. I want to know as much as I can about these things. All right, Mr. Freeman, I'll teach you what I know. You can have all the extra practice and ammo you want. Just let me know a day ahead of time, and I'll set you up. We'll leave the Schmeiser for a while and start with the simpler jobs, and then work up. Pistols too. Yes, I like that, Sergeant. And I'd rather your maintenance section didn't clean them for me.
I'd rather do it myself. No better way I know of to learn a weapon than to break it down, clean, and reassemble it. The gunnery sergeant nodded his head, and something rather like a smile crossed his face. Freeman read everything in the library on gunnery, demolition, subversion, sabotage, and terrorism. He continued to head the class and examination results. There was much more study among the group now, and they eyed one another uneasily, wondering who would be the next to go. They had no taste for returning to their jobs they had left. Civil rights bureaucracies, social welfare agencies, selling insurance, heading a playground in the ghetto, teaching school, all of the grinding little jobs open to a non-professional, middle-class Negro with a college degree. Long after Freeman retired, between midnight and 1, his program not varying from the schedule he had established during the first week. The rest of the class studied for far into the night. The group was given the Army physical aptitude test, consisting of squat jumps, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and a 300-yard run. Freeman headed to the group with a score of 482 out of a possible 500. The men finishing second and third to him in academics were released when they scored less than 300 points. There were only 2 other athletes in the group, one a star in at Florida A&M, the other a sprinter from Texas Southern. They were far down on the list academically, although they studied each night until dawn. It was just a matter of time before they left. In 2 months, there were 5 of the group left, including Freeman. Hand-to-hand combat rid them of 2 more. The instructor was a Korean named So, but Calhoun, his supervisor, was an American from North Carolina. The niggers would leave, or Calhoun would break their necks. He broke no necks, but he did break one man's leg and dislocated another's shoulder. He was surprised and angered to find that Freeman had studied both judo and jiu-jitsu and had a brown belt and the former and a blue stripe in the latter. He would throw Freeman with all the fury and strength he could muster. Each time, Freeman took the fall expertly. He dismissed the rest of the class one day and asked Freeman to remain. Freeman, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think your people belong in our outfit. I don't have anything against the rest of the group. I just don't think they belong. But you, don't like. He says, but you, I don't like. Well, I guess that's your hang up. I don't like your goddamn phony humility, and I don't like your style. This is a team for men, not for misplaced cotton pickers. I'm going to give you a chance. You just walk up to the head office and resign, and that will be it. Otherwise, we fight until you do. And you will not leave this room until I have whooped you and you walk out of here, or crawl out of here, or are carried out of here and resign. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Whitey, you make yourself clear, but you ain't running me nowhere. You're not a man. He says you're not man enough for that. Freeman felt the adrenaline beginning to course through his body, and he began to get that limp, drowsy feeling, his mouth turning dry. I can't back away from this one, he thought. Mr. Sue will referee international judo rules. No chops, kicks, or hand blows. Falls and chokeholds only. After a fall, you get 3 minutes. After a fall, you get 3 minutes rest, and we fight again. And I keep throwing you. And wait, is that on you or? Oh, it's on. Oh, Freeman, until you walk out of this outfit for good. Mr. Sue, they bowed formally and circled one another, each reaching gingerly for handholds of the other's jackets. He had 15 pounds on Freeman and wore a black belt, but a black belt signified only that the wearer had studied judo techniques enough to instruct others. The highest degree for actual combat is the brown belt Freeman wore. Calhoun was not a natural athlete and had learned his techniques through relentless and painstaking practice. His balance was not impressive, and he had compensated with a wide stance. Freeman figured his edge and speed all but nullified his weight disadvantage. He had studied Calhoun throughout the courses. He had watched him when he demonstrated throws and when he fought exhibition performances with Sue. Freeman was familiar with his techniques and habits and knew that he favored two throws above all others: a hip throw and a shoulder throw, both right-handed. He came immediately to the attack. Freeman avoided him easily, filling him out, testing his strength. Calhoun was very strong in the shoulders and arms, but as slow as Freeman had anticipated. He compensated by bullying his opponents and keeping him on the defensive. Calhoun tried a foot sweep to Freeman's left calf, a feint, then immediately swung full around for the right-handed hip throw. Freeman moved to his right to avoid the sweep, as the North Carolinian had wanted. Then, when Calhoun swung into position for the hip throw, his back to Freeman, Freeman simply placed his hand on his back, and before he could be pulled off balance and onto the fulcrum of Calhoun's hip, pushed hard with his left hand, breaking contact.
It had been a simple and effective defensive move, requiring speed and expert timing. They circled and regained their handholds on each other's jackets. After a few minutes of fighting, realizing that he was outsped, Calhoun began bullying Freeman in an effort to exhaust him. Sue signaled the end of the first 5-minute period. They would take a 3-minute rest. By now, Freeman knew his opponent. You'd be dangerous in an alley, thought Freeman, but you hung yourself up with judo. Karate or jiu-jitsu maybe, to slow me down with the chops and kicks. But there's just no way you can throw me in judo, white boy. He wondered whether to fight or to continue on the defense. He looked at Calhoun squatting Japanese style on the other side of the mat, the hatred and contempt naked on his face. No, he thought, even if I blow my scene, I gotta kick this old phase ass. When you grab me again, Whitey, you're gonna have to two handfuls of 168 pounds of pure black hell. He took slow, deep breaths and waited for the 3 minutes to end. Sue nodded to him. They strode to the center of the mat, bowed, and reached for one another. Freeman changed the standard judo stance with feet parallel, body squared away, and facing the opponent to a variation. Right foot and hand advanced, identical to a southpaw boxing stance. It is an attacker stance, the entire right side being exposed to attack and counter from the opponent. Freeman relied on speed, aggressiveness, natural reflexes, and defensive ability to protect himself in the less defensive position. He wanted only one thing, to throw this white man. He moved immediately to attack. Freeman tried to sweep his right foot to Calhoun's left, followed up with a leg throw. Ostogar then switched from right to left, turning his back completely to his opponent, whose rhythm he had timed, and threw him savagely with a right-handed hip throw. Calhoun lay there and looked at Freeman in surprise. He got slowly to his feet, rearranging his judo jacket and retying his belt. Freeman did the same, then facing him, he bowed, as is the tradition. Calhoun remained erect, staring at Freeman coldly. Freeman maintained the position of the bow, hands on his thighs, torso lowered from the hips. Calhoun-san, you are judoka. You will return bow of Freeman-san, hissed Sue. Reluctantly, Calhoun bowed. They returned to their places on the mat, squatting Japanese style, waiting for the 3 minutes to end. Freeman wondered if he could keep from killing this white man. No, he thought, he's not worth it, and it would really blow the scene, but he does have an ass kicking coming, and he can't handle it. This cat can't believe a nigga can whoop him. Well, he'll believe it when I'm through. Sue signaled then to the center of the mat. Freeman methodically chopped Calhoun down. He threw him with a right foot sweep, a left-handed leg throw, another hip throw, and finally a right-handed shoulder throw. Calhoun, exhausted by now, but refusing to quit, reacted too slowly and landed heavily on his right shoulder, dislocating it. Sue forced the shoulder back into the socket, and the contest was finished. Saying nothing, they bowed formally, and Freeman walked slowly to the locker room. It was the end of the day, Friday, and he would have the weekend to recuperate, and he would need it. Calhoun asked for an overseas assignment. Within 3 days, he left for leave at his family home in North Carolina, then disappeared into the Middle East. Freeman would have to be more careful. There were holes in his mask. He would have to repair them. And that concludes chapter 2 of the book that we all know about, and the movie we all know about, The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. Let me see. Yeah, there you go. Put it up, Reg. Man, that was a good first two chapters.
Oh hell yeah! I was enjoying that, man.
Yeah,
Hell yeah!
man. I'm looking. It's what is the time? 8:30. We still got about 30 minutes. Do you want to try to see if we can get this third chapter in, or do you want to call it just for the two
No, I
before
want to keep going.
barbershop? All
Yeah,
right,
let's
for
go.
sure. Let's go. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna start off. Or you want to start?
All right, you can go. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna read the first 3 pages though, because I was over here into the story. Like, hold on, my man's got deployed. All right, cool. Chapter 3. The director of the school reported to the general on the new group. General, I'm afraid that there is at least one who might stick it. I thought you told me only 2 weeks ago that there was hardly a chance that any of that group would last. That's correct, General. Even with the facts on paper before me as I made the report, I somehow forgot that the man existed. He has a way of fading into the background. You can't remember his face or what he looks like or what he has said, even minutes after you have spoken to him. But the records speak for themselves. He leads the class in everything, and his marks are above average, although not by much for our regular classes. Who is this man? His name is Freeman, sir. Is that the one who had the altercation with Calhoun? Yes, sir. And Sue reports that he could have killed Calhoun. Sue thinks him one of the finest natural judoists of his experience. But Calhoun is rated one of the best men we have in hand-to-hand combat. That's true, General. But in all honesty, to Calhoun, this man has had several years' experience as a judoist. He has fought in the Midwest Regional Championships for the last 3 years, qualifying for the national finals, but refusing the trip because of work commitments. Our physical instructor considers him one of the finest natural athletes he has ever seen. True, they do make good athletes, great animal grace and reflexes. I'm disappointed, however, in Calhoun. He should never have lost his head. Challenge the man. Sue indicates that there was no provocation. He's just too dedicated to the agency. Can't stand the idea of standards being lowered. Can't say that I disagree with him. Well, he has a chance to prove himself in Yemen. The general picked up some papers from his desk in dismissal. When the director of the school had almost reached the door, the general lifted his head. This man, Freeman, if he survives this group, is to go into the incoming class. He might do well amongst his own people, but competing with whites might be another cup of tea. He is not to be treated unfairly, but he is not to be given any advantage either. The general motioned the director back to the chair. What kind of man would you say he is? Well, slow-witted, a plotter. He studies 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, only in athletics. Does he seem to do things naturally? Physically, he could be expected to react instantly and efficiently, but in a mental crisis, I don't know. I thought as much. Then there is no question of his going into the field. Even if he does survive the group, we cannot subject the lives of our agents in the field to his deficiencies. We'll find something for him here in headquarters. Thank you. That'll be all. Keep me posted on this group. 2 weeks before the scheduled ending of the training, Freeman was alone. He watched the last group leave. No one bothered to say goodbye. Freeman had no friends amongst them, and his continued presence in the camp was an insult. He settled himself in front of the television set and pressed the remote control button and watched the white fantasy world in full color. Freeman finished the course and was congratulated in a small ceremony in the director's office. There were to be 3 weeks before the new group arrived, and he elected to remain in the camp, except for a few days' leave. He drove to an all-Negro housing development just across the Anacostia River and applied for a one-bedroom apartment. He then drove to New York and checked into the Hotel Teresa in Harlem. He made the rounds of the Harlem bars the first evening before heading downtown to the jazz joints. His Robert Hall suit and 2 pointy shoes were in the hotel closet, his gold-edged tooth cap in a plastic container in the bathroom, a plain one replacing it. He wore black rimmed glasses of plain glass, cordovan bluchers, a button-down shirt of English Oxford, and a dark shark skin suit from J. Press. He saw the Thessalonians Monks at the 5 Spot, the band with Johnny Griffin, Charlie Mingus at the Village Gate. He saw 3 Penny Opera in the Village and 5 Finger Exercise the night of the Iguana, and I Can Get It For You wholesale on Broadway.
He visited the newly opened Guggenheim and decided that Wright had goofed, but he enjoyed the Kandinsky. He visited the galleries on the 57th Street. Oh, dang, I'm jacking up. On the 57th Street and the Museum of Modern Art. His second night, he found a 6-foot compatible whore who knew the night clerk at his hotel. He tipped the night clerk and the bellboy on duty, and each night after that, he would meet her in the bar between 2 and 3, and they would spend the night in his hotel room. He purchased 16 books, but deferred the delivery until further notice. The CIA Freeman would not have, the CIA Freeman would not have read those books. Freeman left his suit, shoes, shirts, tie, and tooth caps in a bag with instructions that they be delivered to the storage company that stored the rest of his clothing, records, books, and paintings that had no business in his new existence. He would establish a New York base later. He had pondered the dangers of leading a double life and decided that the strain of squaredom would have to be eased somehow from time to time. The few days in New York, doing the simple things he had done, had convinced him more than ever that this was important. He might be the CIA Tom in Washington, but for a few days elsewhere, he would have to become Freeman again. He did not think that, even if he ran into his CIA colleagues in New York, identification would be a danger. Niggers all look alike to whites anyway, and no one would connect the New York Freeman with the Freeman who would pioneer integration in one of the most powerful governmental institutions in the United States. He left early Sunday morning. The top of the car, he left early in the morning, the top of the car down. He put the Morgan onto the New Jersey Turnpike and headed south for the nation's capital. The Morgan would have to go. He decided it did not fit his painstakingly created image. He was sorry about that as he listened to the exhaust the exhaust note over the roar of the wind in the car radio. But a Ford or Chevrolet will be better, perhaps even an Oldsmobile or a Buick. He will be expected to own a car a bit outside his means, a bit more expensive and flashy than those of his peers at the agency. It was not difficult to conform to the image whites desired, since they did most of the work. They saw in most Negroes exactly what they most wanted to see. One need only impressionistically support the stereotypes. Whites were fools, and one had constantly to fight in order not to underestimate their power and danger, because a powerful and dangerous fool is not to be underestimated. Add the elements of hypocrisy and fear, and one had an extreme volatile combination. It was a combination that could easily blow the country, even the world apart. In the army, Freeman had learned to respect but not fear the potential danger of the danger of explosives. Rather, he had learned how to use them. He did not, as did the African diplomats, have difficulty with lunch on Highway 1 because he did not bother to try to get a meal in the greasy spoons and truck spots that dotted the highway like a cantankerous growth of chrome and neon. He stopped along the highway and ate a lunch he had packed the night before from from a delicacy, a premixed martini over the rocks from a thermos, a cold chicken with potato salad, and mixed salad with oil and vinegar dressing, and a small bottle of Chiblis, which had chilled in the cracked ice of the cooler. Finished, he discarded the ice, repacked the container, and lay back on the army blanket he had spread under a tree and slept for an hour. He reached Washington just ahead of the incoming weekend traffic and was in camp in time to shower and catch Ed Sullivan on television after a light dinner in the camp dining room. An agent, as Freeman had anticipated, had checked his movements in New York, checking routinely at the hotel and questioning the whore with whom Freeman had slept. They would not find much, since Freeman knew that the people with whom he had talked would have seen nothing out of the ordinary in either his dress or behavior. Besides, Harlem Negroes, particularly hotel employees and prostitutes, seldom tell white men very much, especially those who look and act like cops, regardless of what they claim to be. Free of classes, Freeman increased his personal study and was able to spend time each day working with Sue on the mat. He added karate to his repertoire of judo and jiu-jitsu and spent time as well on the range, firing pistols, rifles, and shotguns, as well as his more favored automatic weapons. Freeman spent each weekend in Washington and became convinced that it is one of the squarest towns in the world. Within walking distance of the immaculate white neoclassic centers lies some of the worst ghetto slums in the United States. The bigots on Capitol Hill need look no further than a few hundred yards to convince themselves of the inherent inferiority of Negroes in controlling the Capitol like a colonial. What is that? What is this word? Fiefdom? A colonial fiefdom. Fiefdom. They can ensure that things will not change racially.
He found a whore on U Street and would spend time with her each weekend in a bed, in a hotel, in the ghetto. She was questioned as well. Look, honey, what kind of cop you say? What kind of cop you say you were? I'm not a police officer. You look like a cop to me, baby. How come you asking me stuff about this cat? He in trouble? He a nice John. What make you think I'm gonna tell you anything? I'm not a policeman, but I do have police friends. Like that, huh? I wonder when you start leaning on me. You old phase, never no different, no matter how you look. And you college cats with the smiles and pink baby faces, that the worst. Okay, what you want to know? He slipped her a 20. She picked it up from the table, never taking her eyes off of his face. Have you ever known him to take dope, marijuana, heroin? Nah, he don't even smoke much. After he eats, after we done, turn the trick, maybe 3 or 4 cigarettes, all the time we together. He ain't no junkie, baby. Does he have any tendencies to boast, brag? Him? Nah, he don't talk about himself. Not at all. I thought he was a baseball player, even football. Although he had a little bit, although he a little bit small for that, but he could be. He ain't nothing but muscle and prick. If he got any fat on him, I ain't found it. Does he gamble? Nah. One night I took him up to one place. Cat owed me some bread, and I had to collect. Little poker, little craps. He just watching when we were through, we leave. Tell you something about the man though. People don't give him no shit. He moved quiet, don't say nothing. But I seen some bad cats move around him. This cat owed me the bread. He don't even want to pay it. I don't tell him nothing about what you say his name. Freeman. I didn't say nothing about him being my man. I just took him there before we make it to the hotel, and maybe he wants some action. I get a cut. That cat owed me start to get a little off the wall about the bread. Then he look at Freeman. He just standing there watching the crap game, quiet, ain't bothering nobody. But this cat owes me the bread. Look at him, and then look at me, and baby, he give me the bread. And the cat, one of the baddest man in D.C. He make 2 of Freeman, but he don't want no part of him. He ain't my man, and it wasn't his scene, but I thought about it, and if I had trouble that night, he be in it. And he ain't romantic about chicks on the block. Never comes on like a social worker. How a nice girl like you get in this shit? Let me take you out. Let me take you out of it, baby. None of that shit. I'm a whore and he knows it. But he treats me like a queen. I think he putting me on for a long time, and then I get it like that. He can put me on as long as he wants. I dig the way he treats me. I'm a whore. He knows it. I know it. But when I'm with him, he makes me feel like a queen. What about his sexual habits? Anything, well, unusual? She looked at him through narrowed eyes. So that you're seen? Well, baby, 20 bills ain't enough for no freaks. Come again? Little more bread, you dig? I know some chicks don't deal in nothing but freaky tricks, but that ain't my scene. And don't start no shit about the man. I ain't no junk, and I can give always my and I can always get my hat and make it to Baltimore, you dig? He gave her another 20, blushed furiously, and damned the woman for sensing what no one else knew, that he enjoyed this part of his job, to his shame. Nothing fancy, little straight up and down mostly. Blowjobs ain't his scene. He don't mind a little hair now and then, but before the deal goes down, he wants to make it straight. No way opposition or jazz, lips, and wet towels, no gimmicks. He just like a screw, baby. Now, don't be disappointed. Now, I could tell you about some real freaks. I got a trick white boy like you come down here once a week just to listen. Get his cookies every time. You want to hear some scenes, honey? Or maybe you want me to get a show together. Straight, gay, or both. Anything you want, baby. They were sitting in the back booth of a long, narrow, and very dark bar on U Street. She stroked his thigh and confirmed his excitement. This was the easiest trick she had in a week. She wondered how much she could milk him for. Would you say that he might have homosexual tendencies? She threw her pretty black head back and laughed. Him? Man, you wasting your time there. He wouldn't make that scene for nothing. If you got a thing for him, look someplace else. Shit, I ought to know what I'm talking about. I make it that way myself, and it takes one to know one. Anybody could turn me straight. It could be him. I mean, he don't need no fake scenes, and he just want a good professional job. But sometimes he really turns me on, and I ain't had no thing for a man in years. No, baby, he ain't gay.
But if that's your scene, I know somebody you might dig. She continued to stroke his thighs. Or, baby, I could do things for you. She leaned over, whispering in his ears, and told him in detail what she could do. He backed into the corner of the booth, but continued to listen. Suddenly, he gripped her thigh with one hand and groaned. She moved away, looked at him in contempt, and then she lit a cigarette. He lay back against the corner of the booth until the color returned to his face, a thin film of perspiration on it. She crossed her legs and moved her foot in time to Sunny sit on the jukebox. She liked this joint. Oh wait, she liked this joint. They had good sounds here. He sat up, wiped his face with a handkerchief, looking around nervously. No one was paying the slightest attention to the booth. She motioned towards the back of the bar. The John back there, he started to slide across the bench of the booth. You forgetting something, honey. She held out her hand. He reached quickly into his pocket and stuffed crumpled bills into her hand. She looked at them, nodded, and then moved from the booth to let him pass. She smoothed her red dress, thinking that his grip on her thigh might leave a bruise. She walked to the bar and ordered a drink, fixed her hair in the mirror, and straightened her red dress on her shoulders. She had never worn red before. She had been told all her life that she could not because she was too black, but Freeman had told her that she should wear it because she was a Bohemian queen. Hey, I think I'm saying that right. Bohemian queen.
The homie is a country in Africa, yeah.
Okay, the homie queen. She had gone to the library to find out what that had meant because he wouldn't explain and asked for the book he had written down for her and asked for the book he had written down for her. She had found that he was talking about Africa, and at first had been angry, but there was the pictures of a woman in the book that had looked enough like herself to startle her. Hair kinky and short crop with big earrings in her ears. She had taken the book out of the library and painfully read it in its entirety. Then she brought a red dress, and later several others when she found the tricks liked it, but mostly because Freeman liked her in red and said so. She wore big round and oval earrings like the queen in the pictures, but she could not bring herself to wear her hair short and kinky. But sometimes she would look at the pictures and see herself there. And for the first time in her life, she began to think that she might be beautiful, as he said. She returned to the booth and sipped her new drink. The trick returned. The trick returned from the John, all police like and white man strong. He thanked her for her information and cautioned her not to say anything to Freeman. He could not look her. Oh, he could not look her in the eye. She blew smoke into his face, and he left. She would need no more tricks that night, and she had done better than a full weekend with a potty boy. She walked to the phone booth and called her chick. Honey, got a scene working. I won't be able to make it tonight. Big bread. See you tomorrow, huh? Of course I miss you. Be cool, baby. Mama will make it up tomorrow. Bye now. She walked out into U Street and took a cab to a small efficiency apartment that she kept for herself. Even her woman did not know of its existence, and she used it when she wanted to be alone. She wanted to be alone tonight and to think about Friedman. She might invite him to her apartment the coming weekend instead of making their usual hotel routine. Men were not her scene. She knew, but she liked that man. She knew soon after she entered the apartment that she would invite him there. And there we are. Great, great book. End of chapter 3.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, that was a great read, man. I'm over here tripping because I see how they over here trying to go at the whore and try to find out what he up to. And she's like, man, y'all barking up the wrong tree. This dude quiet as kept, quiet as a church mouse, keep to himself, do his thing. And he damn sure got a presence of somebody that ain't to be really fucked with, because everywhere I go, I'm dealing with real killers and they won't even mess with him. You know what I'm saying? So I can totally picture that just like in the movie, but it's like more in depth in the book, man. It's dope. But yeah, we about to head over to the barbershop. Fred has already got it going, so we're gonna go right up over there. Salute to everybody that was in the chat tonight supporting. Salute to my brother Reggie. We on another one. Found another good book to read. Appreciate anybody that's watching this on the replay and listening. If you're on the road, be safe while you're on the road. If you at the job site, have a good shift. And you know what I'm saying, we're gonna be back tomorrow, starting with chapter 4. Once again, you know what I'm saying, the whole thing is to make it cool to read again, make reading great again. And you know, with that being said, peace, blessings, and respects to everybody out there. Go ahead, Reg, close them out, and then we're gonna head out to the barbershop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you guys for coming through, and we'll see you guys in here tomorrow. And over in the barbershop. Yes, that's all I got. Great, great book, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.